Today I have my 2012 Toyota Tundra. This is my personal vehicle, and this is what I use to run errands in, do some mobile repairs, and today I'm going to show you guys how to do an oil change on the Toyota Tundra and also talk about some proper maintenance tips and how I personally service my own vehicles. Starting off, the oil that I use for my own personal vehicles, I like to use good quality oil. I like working on European cars, working at the BMW dealership. We didn't use liquid moly there, but if you look at all the European racing teams, liquid moly is an oil that they are using. And of course, we have a factory Toyota filter there. One thing I want to show you guys, my truck does get some idle hours due to doing mobile repairs and sitting around waiting for people, things like that. So if you can see here on this oil cap, this gunk right here, it'll be due for a engine oil flush here soon. You are changing your own oil, doing your own maintenance. Let's go ahead and make sure that we are checking our ball joints and stuff. So when you're doing that oil change, you're going to jack it up. Maybe you're using ramps. Depending on the make or model of the vehicle, you may have to put the jack under the control arm, but it's always good to at least get a pry bar under there and pry up and down, check for loose wheel bearings, loose ball joints, a little bit of side to side, check tie rod play, and then of course as we go up we're going to check brakes and everything else. Now that we're halfway up, we're going to go ahead and check brakes. So if you guys are working on the ground, same thing. So you're going to want to get a light, go in here and check your brake pad thickness. The rears are going to be harder. Also, this right here, since I don't drive my truck every single day, you're going to see that rust lip on there. That's not good. You don't want that on your brakes. You want your rotors, the pads, to be touching all the way across. And the reason this is happening is because these are cheap pads and rotors that I purchased from CarQuest, and even though they are their platinum brake pads, they're no good. They're expensive, almost more expensive than going to the dealer, and they're junk. They only last about 40,000 miles in my experience. Good set of Toyota pads is going to last you probably close to 80 to 100,000 depending on driving habits. So no point in spending the money on that. Every time you do an oil change, it's good to rotate your tires. So let's get that taken care of. If you ever get a lug nut stuck in your, this is a wheel lock, they're junk, but you got to use them with aftermarket wheels a lot of times. Take a hammer and strike it right here, and that's what I've been doing on the car lift over there. If you strike this guy right here with a hammer, it's going to fall out. So you guys see here, this is the kind of stuff as a technician when I was flat rate, it made me really frustrated. You only got paid, like, a lot of times it was like 2/10 to do a tire rotation, and you got to sit here and beat the sockets off. Now, luckily, I greased my wheels, or my hubs, so boom, these guys come right off. Even here in the Rust Belt of northwestern Virginia. As you can see, light coating of grease on the wheel hubs. This is going to, you notice how there's no rust on the hubs? Keep them clean, wheels will come right off, and you won't be on the side of the road when you have a flat trying to kick your wheel off. Light coating of grease. Put it all the way around the hub. Keep your wheels clean. You'll notice the hubs of my wheels, they're very clean. Now, there's lots of different ways to rotate your tires. You can do X patterns, front to back, however you want to do it. I just go front to back, just my preference. But now we can come back here and you can see those rear brakes now that you have your, yeah, rusty. Welcome to the Rust Belt. Anyway, and check your rear brake pads now that you're back here. We're not trying to fixate on this too much. So another very important thing is making sure your tire pressures are set correctly. So if you want to figure out how to set your tire pressure, go around to your driver's door jamb and there's a sticker there. Do not go by the maximum pressure that is on the tire. That is a maximum pressure for that tire. That does not mean that is what the pressure should be for the tires on your vehicle. While that oil is draining, one thing guys, see this little splash pad right here? Those are going to help keep your oil from splashing everywhere, especially on the Tundras. If you've changed the oil, you'll notice it'll splash over into the tire there a lot of times. So a little splash pad there on your drain pan is going to help with that. They sell those at a lot of auto parts stores. And then that cover right here, so these covers are kind of a pain in the butt to get off sometimes. If you take a cutoff wheel and cut the little tabs that holds it up there, that's going to help you be able to just put it back up in there easier. And then something I always like to do as well is these little bolts right here, spray them down with a little WD-40, and you can even put it up in the bolt holes that are up in the frame, and that's just going to, over time, is going to make it a lot easier to get your pan down. So while you're under your vehicle, you know, go ahead and do a good look over. Check everything out. See if you got anything leaking. See if you got, you know, CV axle boots are busted. See if your shocks are leaking. Check all that stuff out. Look for any engine oil leaks, and you know, just do a good look over. And something else that I like to do, transmission services, I'm doing those every 30 to 50,000 depending on your driving habits. If you're somebody that tows a lot, definitely stay around that 30,000 mile mark. Front differential services every 50,000 is good. And then your rear differential as well. You know, make sure you're servicing those every 50,000. Transfer case too. If you want to get the longest life you can out of your vehicle, then service it. It's going to help. And a lot of these time-based things that I'm speaking of, I learned these when I worked at a Honda dealership. Honda, Toyota, they're both strict on their maintenance, and that's why their vehicles last so long. Yes, they're a good vehicle, but if you really want them to last long, this truck has 188,000 miles, and I've never had to do anything to it other than just basic maintenance, spark plugs, things like that. And then, you know, if there's something you think you might ever have to service, like a shift linkage, you know, throw a little WD-40 on that stuff whenever you are doing an oil change. Little nuts and bolts, that little WD-40 you're spraying on things like that, it's never going to hurt, and it's just going to make things come apart easier as the vehicle gets older. Okay, another nice thing about the Toyota oil filters is they come with this little guy right here that will help you drain the oil out of the oil filter, keep from making a big mess. It's one of the reasons why I like the Toyota oil filters. Plus, you know, can't go wrong with using a factory tool. Now, if you want to get this guy out easier, one thing I like to do is I will take a impact gun and I'll knock that out with the impact gun. Do not run it back in with one, but if they get stuck, impact gun, the little jolt from that is going to help get that guy out of there a little bit easier. So make sure you're replacing the O-ring on this cap. Now there is a torque spec for this guy. I always like to hand tighten them. And then you're going to need a special tool for getting the oil filter out of there. Okay. Since we drained the oil out of this guy, it's not going to make nearly as big of a mess. And then something else that's good to do is take your oil filter and look in between. Make sure you don't see any metal. Look in the veins of the filter. Looks good. Get your pick your O-ring off of that. New O-ring. Make sure you get a little bit of oil in that O-ring. Plop your new filter on there. Here. There we go. And then when you're done, hit that with a little brake clean. I keep my impact gun on low so I don't strip any of the threads. Guys, we're done underneath. And you guys probably noticed that I was using 5W30. So since my truck has almost 90,000 miles on it, I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to run a little bit of a thicker oil. Also, I get a bit of a timing chain rattle during a cold start, so I'm hoping that running a higher quality oil is also going to help with that. Key off, press and hold. And you'll see the little dots flashing. When they stop flashing, there you go. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Next year, things are going to get a lot better. I've got some interviews that I want to set up with a couple people. I've been talking to them about it. 2 of them have already agreed. They are shop owners that work on European race cars, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I have talked with a few friends about talking to another guy that will be racing a Lamborghini next year, so stay tuned for that. Also, I'm no longer in my dining room anymore doing video editing. We've got a couple upgrades that have happened here. And then also with the oil change on the Tundra, I'm going to be following up with that a little bit later on with the timing chain rattle. So thank you guys for tuning in. Let's make this thing blow up.